town. It's in the mountain in this right moment, and we got a good evacuation. But it's running good, and was a really, really strong earthquake. And I don't know. I got no information because in this right moment we got out, and we got not too much. I got not too much information. I'm like a mile from the shore. I'm still a little bit worried because there's still the tsunami alert on.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So Kurt, tell us, you're evacuating.
After the earthquake,
Kurt, you're evacuating right
Sorry?
now. You're leaving Iquique. Where are you heading to? What's the plan?
No. I'm in the northern city in Chile, probably 100 kilometers from the epicenter.
Okay.
Maybe 200 kilometers from Iquique. I don't know how was the earthquake in Iquique, but here in Arica was really, really strong, nearby 8.8 something, and everybody freaked out.
So you're in Enrique. Sorry, my apologies, but still, we understand that there has been this evacuation order for anybody along the coast, essentially to get away from the coastal areas. Is that what you're doing?
Sorry, I can hear you really well. Can you repeat me, please?
Sure. The government has told people to move away from the coast because of the potential of the tsunami, that it is time to evacuate. Are you moving inland? And if so, where are you heading to? Is there a plan in place?
No, I'm in this right moment. I'm in my place, in my business. Like I told you before, I'm like a mile from the shore. I'm supposed to be okay in this distance, but the plan of evacuation is like 2.5 miles from the shore. So I'm just me in this right moment in my business, and everything is black, and there's nobody here in downtown. So I got not too much information.
Sure.
You got more information than me in this right moment.
That's often the case, Kurt, but the situation there, you said everything is black. Is that because the electricity has been knocked down, or just because many people have left?
No, it's a blackout. They got no light, electricity, and I'm surprised I got a cell phone line and telephone line in this right moment. This is rare, and it's lucky to get this conversation.
Sure.
So yeah, it's like now it's like a ghost town in the downtown here in this right moment after the earthquake. And everybody's waiting for the tsunami, but probably it's not that big like they're supposed to be.
So, Kurt, can I ask you, why aren't you leaving if everybody else has?
Sorry, again?
Why are you staying put?
Why?
Yeah, if everyone else has left.
I'm staying my owner of this the hostel, and definitely I'm sure nothing will happen. I'm finger crossed, really.
Okay. And just very quickly, Kurt, describe to us your experience when this earthquake happened. What did you feel? What was it like?
Yeah, well, I'm in Arica in the northern Chile. We got this kind of movement each 5 years, but this one definitely was really, really. Like I told you before, I got no how big was, but definitely plus 8 points. And everybody freaked out. We got no light. It's nearby midnight, but I'm surprised a good evacuation plan. The government do a running well the evacuation plan for the last. We are feeling a little earthquake like a month ago, so everybody like kind of expecting this kind of earthquake. Yeah, everybody freak out. It's scary.
Okay, Kurt, we shall leave it there. We appreciate you telling us the latest there in Enrique, which is about 200 kilometers from Iquique, which is essentially the closest city to the epicenter, which was offshore. Kurt telling us that there is no power where he is, that the vast majority of the people in that town have now evacuated. He is staying put, even though he is only about a mile or so from the shore. And, of course, there is this tsunami warning in place, the government advising everyone to evacuate the coastlines. Most people have done it. Kurt has not. Let's get more now on the size of this earthquake. Rich Brooks is with the U.S. Geological Survey. We thought we had him. Unfortunately, we do not have Rich Briggs to tell us more about the size of this quake, this magnitude quake, which now we're told measures an 8.2 magnitude, upgraded from an 8.0 magnitude earthquake. Well, we tried to get Rich back from the U.S. Geological Survey. Earlier, I had a chance to speak with Charles McCreary. He is the director of the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center in Honolulu, Hawaii. He explained what happened in the immediate aftermath of the quake and what may happen in other areas which are now under tsunami watches and warnings.
Shortly after the earthquake, we recorded, we got readings from the nearest gauges in the northern part of Chile of up to 2 meters above normal sea level. And from gauges that are located a little bit further away, the amplitudes have diminished. But we know from that 2-meter reading that certainly there was the potential for a destructive tsunami along that northern part of Chile and probably the southern part of Peru. What we're trying to evaluate now is what might be, what energy in the tsunami might have been sent out across the Pacific to affect other areas. And we're hopeful it's not. This is not too big. It's not a magnitude 9, thankfully, but an 8.2 is a great earthquake.
Charles, we're having word that one of the waves caused by this earthquake, one of the tsunamis, is 2.11 meters tall. In the scale of tsunamis, where does that sit?
Well, that's a big reading on a coastal gauge, and we don't have access to coastal gauges everywhere. So from that, we just simply know that there was a big tsunami in that area, and that the waves, from a tsunami, the waves go in all directions. So they're going up into the coast. They can be bigger and large in some areas. We know from our experiences here in Hawaii. We may record 1.5 meters on a gauge, but somewhere along the coast it may have reached 3 or 4 meters above a normal sea level. So it's a gauge is a proxy for what might be happening other places along the coast.
Okay, so how long will it take before we know exactly how big this tsunami is, what the dangers that are being faced, and essentially, when will we know when the danger has passed? Well,
on those coasts in Chile, there can be resonances. The danger can go on for many, many hours, and that'll be up to their emergency management agencies to determine when it's safe along those coasts. For the rest of the Pacific, probably within a couple of hours, we'll have enough data here to know whether there's a danger anywhere else in the Pacific. And right now, it looks pretty good. It looks like probably most places may experience fluctuations in sea level of much less than a meter. So sometimes that can be it can still be a hazard to swimmers, but probably not a flooding type hazard.
And as far as this area of Chile is concerned, we know back in 2010 there was that 8.8 magnitude quake. There was a tsunami which followed. They weren't, it seemed, prepared. Essentially the government gave the all clear too soon. I guess the situation right now, as you look at people evacuating and you're hearing that there is, in fact, an orderly evacuation underway, I guess this does look to be a very different situation to the one that we saw back in 2010.
Well, I know for certain they've made a lot of improvements in their system down there in Chile, and of course we don't know firsthand what's going on down there with their warning and cancellations, and we won't find out till later. But I would imagine the situation today is a much better experience for them than it was in 2010, and it's a much smaller earthquake, even though it's an 8.2. That's still hugely smaller than an 8.8.
And it's an 8.2, which is what, about 20 kilometers below the seabed?
Yes, that's about that's around where the centroid is. So, an earthquake is not a point source. It ruptures over a large area. So this is kind of the center, where the depth of the center of that large area.
Okay, Charles McCreary, we appreciate you being with us from the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, giving us some very valuable information about what's been going on and what we can expect in the coming hours. We thank you for that. Okay, we're getting more information now about the aftershocks. We're about 2.5 hours since this earthquake was first recorded. Let's go at Ivan Cabrera. He is following this for us at the International World Weather Center. So what can you tell us?
You're going to get a swarm of aftershocks, essentially, after the epicenter here. Normally, they are going to be located near that epicenter. You can clearly see that on our map here. You can see just some of the latest here, that we're going to run into the dozens, hundreds eventually of aftershocks here in the weeks to come. But the strongest and most dangerous ones are going to be happening within the next several hours. But there you see one right along the coast. So again, the shaking, sometimes not necessarily right near the epicenter, so we can get significant earthquakes. We've already measured a 6.2 in just the last few minutes across the region here. So that danger remains. Along with the tsunami danger remains, the warning is still in effect for Chile. And you have to keep in mind, remember, when we were talking about the Japan tsunami and back in 2004, well, you don't just get one wave propagating out of the displacement of water here. Sometimes the second, sometimes the third wave are the ones that are more significant, the higher ones, the ones that have the potential to lead to a significant loss of life. That gentleman you were talking to, that is a terrible idea, to be within a mile of a tsunami warning and not head to higher ground. I would be heading to higher ground if I were him, because the danger certainly has not passed and will not pass until we get about a couple of hours confirmation of nothing arriving along the shore. And remember, this is all happening in darkness here, so you won't see it coming. It is difficult to see the tsunami coming anyway, but in the darkness, it's even more so. So the danger continues. The reason we've drawn the circle here is, John, because this is about 1,000, essentially, kilometers away from the epicenter here. Anyone within this range just did not have enough time to get out of the way. You just logistically, you get 800-kilometer-per-hour moving tsunami, and that will arrive on the shore rather quickly here. The next, I want to share the next spots that are in line here, because this is just essentially math. You just calculate at what speed it's moving here. Peru, La Punta, if you're watching us from there, it is going to be on the way within the next few minutes. Ecuador in the next few minutes, about 19 minutes away, La Libertad. And then in Chile, Valparaiso has already seen the initial wave arriving. If they got anything, it's already on shore. Perhaps additional waves arriving, but that initial one was at 01:35. This is UTC Zulu time. The next one for Chile would be Talcahuano at 02:19. In fact, as we speak, that initial wave arriving there. So again, two dangers ongoing. The aftershocks will continue, and obviously the tsunami warnings are still in effect for these three countries. We're talking about Chile, we're talking about Ecuador, Colombia, and Panama as well, all included in that tsunami warning. And there are watches for other countries here if they get involved in the warnings. And we'll mention them, because otherwise we just get too clustered with info. So hopefully we'll get some information off the coast, and we're hoping for the best here.
Yeah, and of course, we should repeat, the information we have at this point coming from the Chilean government, no fatalities at this stage, no reports of major damage, just some landslides which have been blocking a few highways. But as you pointed out earlier, still very early in all of this, and of course...
Listen, we had the same thing in 2010. They said the same thing, and upwards of 500-plus people died in that event, and that was that 8.8. Hopefully, we won't get anywhere near that number here, but it is just so early. We won't know for quite some time the extent of the damage and the casualties.
From what we've been hearing, they are much better prepared this time than they were 4 years ago, so we'll see how this all plays out. Ivan, we thank you for that. We'd like you to stand by, obviously, when we come back to you for more information. In the meantime here, you're watching CNN's breaking news out of Chile. A magnitude 8.2 earthquake struck about 2.5 hours ago. We're continuing to follow this story, but right now we'll take a short break. We'll be back in about 2 minutes.